The observation deck of Research Station Kiorium-7 glowed with warm light against the darkness of the ice planet's endless night. Inside, the celebration was reaching its peak. The Valthrine pack members stood in a circle, their wolf-like bodies covered in thick silver fur that caught the light. They were singing in their deep harmonic voices. It was a sound that made the walls vibrate. Taman stood near the back wall watching quietly. He had been on this frozen world for 2 years now, working as the station's chief engineer. In that time, he had learned much about the Valthrine. They were proud beings. Honor meant everything to them. Tonight was special because 5 young cubs were about to become adults in the eyes of their pack. The 5 cubs stood in the center of the circle. Krell was the largest, with dark gray fur and confident eyes. Shen was quick and clever, always moving. Mora had golden streaks in her silver coat. Vex was the quietest one, thoughtful and careful. Little Pip was the smallest, but his spirit was fierce. They all wore ceremonial bands around their necks marking this important day. Chieftain Rask stepped forward. He was massive, even for a Valthrine, with scars crossing his muzzle from years of leadership. His voice filled the room when he spoke. Tonight you leave as cubs. You will return as hunters. You will face the ice alone. You will prove your courage. This is our way. This has always been our way. The cubs howled together, a sound of excitement and determination. The adult Valthrine answered with their own howls, shaking the station with their pride. Dayun moved to stand beside Taman. She was the station's xenobiologist, and she had spent more time with the Valthrine than any other human. Her breath fogged slightly in the cooler temperature the Valthrine preferred. Beautiful ceremony, she whispered to Taman. He nodded but said nothing. His eyes were on the cubs. They looked so young to him despite their size. The Valthrine reached maturity faster than humans, but these 5 were still children in his mind. The thought of them going out into the frozen wilderness made something tight form in his chest. The storm is getting worse, Taman said quietly. They know, Dayun replied. That is part of the test. They have to face real danger or it means nothing to their culture. Taman understood this. He respected the Valthrine traditions. But understanding and liking were different things. The ceremony continued. Each cub approached Chieftain Rask and received his blessing. Then they were given their hunting tools. Simple weapons that would not give them too much advantage. The hunt had to test them truly. Hyunwoo joined them, carrying 3 cups of hot tea. He was the station's pilot and Taman's closest friend here. His face was relaxed, but Taman could see the concern in his eyes too. Weather report just came in, Hyunwoo said softly. The storm is Category 4 now. Maybe Category 5 by midnight. Did you tell them? Taman asked. Yes. Rask said the storm makes it a better test. Hyunwoo shook his head slightly. Different worlds, different ways. The cubs were moving toward the airlock now. The adult Valthrine formed 2 lines, creating a path of honor for them to walk through. Each adult placed a paw on the cubs as they passed, a gesture of faith and farewell. Taman watched little Pip, the smallest one, walk past. The cub's head was high, but Taman could see the slight tremor in his legs. Fear and excitement mixed together. Pip caught Taman's eye and made a gesture the human had taught him weeks ago, a thumbs up. Taman returned it, forcing a smile. The airlock door opened. The wind screamed into the station, carrying snow and ice. The temperature dropped instantly. The cubs stepped out one by one, disappearing into the white chaos. The door sealed behind them. Silence fell over the observation deck. The celebration was over. Now came the waiting. The Valthrine dispersed slowly, returning to their duties. They showed no worry on their faces. This was normal for them. Cubs went out. Cubs came back stronger. It was the way of things, but Taman could not shake the feeling in his gut. He moved to the window, looking out at the storm. He could see nothing but white and gray, the snow moving like a living thing. They will be fine, Dayun said, joining him at the window. They have been training for this their whole lives. I know, Taman said. But he stayed at the window. Hours passed. Taman worked on routine maintenance, but his mind was elsewhere. He checked the weather monitoring systems 3 times, even though they had no problems. The storm was intensifying. Wind speeds were reaching dangerous levels. He was in the engineering bay when the alarm sounded. The sharp, loud noise brought everyone running. Taman reached the command center first. Hyunwoo was already at the console, his face pale as he read the data. Seismic event, Hyunwoo said. Major movement in the northern mountain range. That is where the cubs are hunting, Daeun said, arriving behind them. The monitors showed the data clearly. An earthquake had triggered something massive. The mountain sensors were going dark one by one as they were buried or destroyed. Avalanche, Taman said. The word felt heavy in his mouth. Chieftain Rask arrived, moving quickly despite his size. He looked at the screens, his expression unreadable. Other Valthrine gathered behind him, their ears flat against their heads. Can we contact them? Rask asked. Hyunwoo worked the communications panel. Static answered him. He tried different frequencies. More static. The storm was blocking everything, and the avalanche had likely destroyed the relay stations in the mountains. No contact, Hyunwoo said quietly. I am sorry. The Valthrine stood very still. Then one by one they began to howl. It was different from the howls of celebration earlier. This sound was full of grief, deep and terrible. It echoed through the station like a physical force. Taman looked at the storm readouts. Wind speed was at maximum safe levels. Visibility was 0. The avalanche zone was unstable. Any rescue attempt would be suicide. His hands clenched into fists. We cannot go out in this, Hyunwoo said, reading Taman's thoughts. We would die before we got halfway there. The young are lost, Rask said. His voice was steady, but pain showed in his eyes. We will honor them. We will sing their names. We will remember their courage. The Valthrine began to move to the ceremonial chamber, where they would begin the mourning rites. They accepted this. It was tragedy, but it was also fate. They had faced such losses before. Taman watched them go. Daeun touched his arm gently. There is nothing we can do, she said. Not in these conditions. You know this. Taman nodded slowly, but he did not move from the screen showing the storm. His mind was working, calculating, measuring. The Valthrine accepted fate. But Taman was human, and humans had never been good at accepting things. He stood there for a long time, listening to the grief songs echoing through the station, watching the white chaos outside. Then very quietly he turned and walked toward the equipment storage bay. No one noticed him leave. The ceremonial chamber was filled with the sound of mourning. The Valthrine sat in traditional positions, forming a circle around 5 empty spaces where the cubs should have been. They sang the death songs, old melodies that spoke of courage and honor and the cycle of life on harsh worlds. Candles burned with blue flames, one for each lost young. Chieftain Rask led the songs, his deep voice carrying the weight of leadership and loss. This was not the first time he had mourned the young. It would not be the last. Such was the burden of raising warriors on a planet that showed no mercy. The other Valthrine followed his lead, their voices blending into something ancient and powerful. Daeun sat outside the circle, respectful of the Valthrine privacy and their grief. She had studied their culture extensively, had written papers on their customs, but witnessing this ceremony made her chest tight with sadness. 5 children were gone. The logical part of her mind understood why the Valthrine accepted this. The human part of her wanted to scream at the unfairness. She looked around the chamber, counting faces. Something felt wrong. She counted again. Where is Taman? She asked Hyunwoo, who sat beside her. Hyunwoo blinked, pulled from his own thoughts. He scanned the room. He was in the command center last I saw him. Maybe he went to his quarters. But doubt showed on his face too. He knew Taman well. The engineer had been quiet all evening, watching the cubs with an expression Hyunwoo recognized. It was the same look Taman got when he saw a problem that needed fixing. Daeun stood up slowly, trying not to disturb the ceremony. She motioned for Hyunwoo to follow her. They left the chamber quietly, the grief songs fading behind them as they walked through the corridors. Taman's quarters were empty. His bed was still made from the morning. His work tablet sat on the desk untouched. Command center, Hyunwoo said, and they both started moving faster. The command center was dark except for the emergency lighting. The monitors showed the storm still raging outside, unrelenting and deadly. Hyunwoo went to the main console and pulled up the station logs. His fingers moved quickly across the screen. Oh no, he whispered. What is it? Daeun asked, already dreading the answer. Equipment log. Taman checked out a survival sled 40 minutes ago. Heavy weather gear, emergency medical kit, climbing equipment, beacon transponder. Hyunwoo looked up at her, his face pale. Daeun, he went out there. She felt her blood turn cold. In this storm? That is suicide. Hyunwoo pulled up more logs. He left a note in the system. Just one line, he read it aloud. Mourning can wait. Searching cannot. They stared at each other for a long moment. Then Daeun turned and ran toward the ceremonial chamber. Hyunwoo followed close behind. The morning song stopped when they burst through the door. Every Valthrine head turned toward them, ears raised in question. Chieftain Rask stood, sensing urgency. "What is wrong?" he asked. "Taemin," Daeun said, breathing hard. He took equipment and went out into the storm. "He is going after the cubs." The reaction was immediate. Some Valthrine stood in shock. Others made sounds of disbelief. Rask's expression shifted through several emotions before settling on something between anger and confusion. "This is foolishness," Rask said. "The cubs are lost. Going into that storm means only one more death. Does he not understand this?" "He understands," Daeun said. "He just does not accept it." One of the elder Valthrine, a female named Kessa, spoke up. "This is disrespectful to our customs. We are in mourning. He breaks this sacred time with his reckless action. He means no disrespect," Hyunwoo said quickly. "Taemin respects your culture deeply. But humans, we have difficulty accepting death without proof, especially when children are involved." "The avalanche is proof," Rask said. "The storm is proof. The silence is proof." "Not to a human," Daeun replied. "We need to see. We need to know for certain. Until then, we hope." Rask's tail lashed in agitation. "Hope is not wisdom. Hope does not change reality. The mountains have taken them. This is known." "Then Taemin will find that out himself," Hyunwoo said. "But he had to try. Can you understand that? He had to try." The Valthrine looked at each other, communicating in ways the humans could not fully interpret. Small gestures, ear positions, the angle of their heads. Finally, Rask spoke again. "We must bring him back before he dies out there." "I will go," Hyunwoo said immediately. "No." Rask's voice was firm. "The storm is too dangerous. I will not lose more lives today." The human made his choice. He must face the consequences of that choice. "You are just going to leave him out there?" Daeun's voice rose in disbelief. "What would you have me do?" Rask asked, and there was real pain in his voice now. "Send my pack into that storm? Watch more of them die?" The human chose to leave. He knew the danger. "I cannot ask others to follow him into death." "He is trying to save your cubs," Hyunwoo said, his voice tight with controlled anger. "My cubs are already beyond saving," Rask replied, "and I will not trade adult lives for that truth." The Valthrine leader turned away, returning to the circle of mourning. The other pack members followed, some looking back at the humans with expressions that might have been sympathy or might have been pity. Daeun and Hyunwoo stood alone in the doorway. The grief songs resumed, now with 6 names instead of 5. They were already mourning Taemin too. In the command center, they monitored what they could. Taemin's beacon showed on the tracking display, a small green dot moving slowly through the storm toward the northern mountains. The dot moved steadily for the first hour, then began to slow. The path became erratic, zigzagging as he searched. "He is in the avalanche zone now," Hyunwoo said, his voice hollow. Daeun watched the screen. The green dot paused for several minutes, then moved again, paused, moved. Each pause felt like forever. "What is he doing?" she wondered aloud. "Searching," Hyunwoo replied. "Grid pattern, maybe, or following some signal we cannot detect." Hours crawled by. The storm showed no signs of weakening. The temperature outside was dropping to lethal levels. Even with the best gear, exposure time was limited. Taemin had been out there for nearly 4 hours now. "He should turn back," Daeun said. "He should come back before it is too late." But the green dot kept moving, kept searching deeper into the danger zone. Taemin was not coming back, not yet. Not until he found them or died trying. "Stubborn," Hyunwoo muttered. "Stupid, stubborn human." But there was admiration in his voice too. And fear. They took turns watching the screen through the night. The Valthrine continued their mourning ceremonies, accepting what they believed was inevitable. The humans watched a green dot move through a frozen hell, refusing to accept anything. As dawn approached on the station's chronometer, though true dawn never came to this world's endless night, the storm finally began to weaken. The wind speeds dropped. Visibility improved from 0 to merely terrible. The green dot had stopped moving an hour ago. It sat stationary at the edge of the avalanche zone, blinking steadily. "Is he?" Daeun could not finish the question. Hyunwoo checked the beacon telemetry. "Signal is still strong, but he is not moving." They stared at that unmoving dot, both thinking the same thing. Was he resting? Was he injured? Was he already dead? His beacon uselessly signaling his last location. I am going out there, Hyunwoo said suddenly. Rask said no. Rask can throw me off this station when I get back. I do not care. Hyunwoo stood up, determination hardening his features. Taemin is my friend. I am not leaving him out there. Daeun stood too. Then we both go. You will need help if he is hurt. They gathered equipment quickly and quietly. Not asking permission they knew would be denied. As they suited up in the airlock, Hyunwoo checked his radio one last time. If we do not come back, he started. We come back, Daeun interrupted. All of us. That is the only option. The airlock door opened and they stepped out into the dying storm, following a beacon signal toward an unmoving green dot, and whatever fate awaited them in the frozen darkness. The cold hit Taemin like a physical blow when he first stepped out of the airlock. The wind tried to knock him over, screaming across the ice with a sound like a living creature in pain. Snow struck his faceplate so hard it sounded like sand. He could barely see 3 meters ahead. He pulled the survival sled behind him, its runners scraping across the frozen ground. The sled was loaded with everything he thought he might need. Medical supplies, thermal blankets, climbing rope, tools, energy packs, water. He had planned as much as time allowed, knowing he could not plan for everything. The emergency beacon on his suit blinked steadily. It would let the station track him. It would also let them know if his suit failed, if his heart stopped, if he died out here. Taemin tried not to think about that. He walked into the storm. The first hour was navigation. Taemin had studied the maps of the northern mountains obsessively since arriving at the station. He knew the hunting grounds the cubs would use. He knew the paths they would likely take. The avalanche had come from the eastern ridge. That was where he needed to go. But knowing and doing were different things. The storm made every direction look the same. White above, white below, white in every direction. His suit compass gave him bearings, but the magnetic interference from the planet's core made it unreliable. He had to navigate by dead reckoning, counting steps, measuring distances in his head. Humans were good at this. Not because they had better tools or stronger bodies. Humans were persistence hunters. On ancient Earth, his ancestors had chased prey for days across savannas, never stopping, never giving up, until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. That same genetic programming lived in Taemin now, the ability to keep moving when logic said to stop. The refusal to quit. He fell twice in the first hour. The ice was treacherous and the wind kept trying to push him over. Each time he got back up. Each time he kept walking. The second hour was worse. His legs burned from the effort of pulling the sled uphill. His lungs ached from breathing the thin, cold air. The suit's heating system worked hard to keep him alive, draining battery power faster than he wanted. He had 12 hours of power at this rate. Maybe less if the cold got worse, but he was getting closer. The ground changed beneath his feet, becoming more unstable. Rocks mixed with ice. Snow piled in strange drifts. This was the avalanche zone. Taemin activated his emergency scanner, a device designed to find suit beacons and life signs. The screen showed nothing but static at first. He adjusted the frequency, boosted the power. Still nothing. He kept walking, kept scanning. Every 100 meters he stopped and did a full 360 scan. Nothing. 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 Fear began to creep in. What if he was in the wrong place? What if the cubs had been buried so deep the scanner could not find them? What if they were already dead, and he was walking to his own death for nothing? Taemin pushed the fear down. Fear did not help. Fear did not save lives. He kept moving. In the third hour, he found the first sign, a piece of torn fabric caught on a rock. It was Valthrine material, ceremonial marking from the hunting bands, fresh not weathered. The cubs had been here. His heart rate increased. He scanned more carefully, moving in expanding circles from where he found the fabric. The scanner flickered. A faint reading barely there, then gone. Then back again, life sign. Weak but present. Taemin started digging. His hands worked frantically, clearing snow and ice. The sled had a collapsible shovel. He used it, moving frozen debris. His breathing was hard now, fogging his faceplate. Sweat ran down his back despite the cold. 2 meters down, he found Vex. The cub was curled in a tight ball, his fur coated with ice. He was not moving. Taemin checked for breathing, for a heartbeat. There. Faint. Slow. But there. Hypothermia. Severe, but alive. Taman wrapped Vex in a thermal blanket from the sled. He gave the cub a warming pack, pressed it against his chest. He could not do more here. He needed to find the others. He marked the location, memorizing it. Then he kept searching. The storm was weakening now, but visibility was still terrible. Taman worked methodically, scanning, moving, scanning again. Each step was harder than the last. His body screamed for rest. His muscles shook with exhaustion. He ignored it all. Mora was next. She was trapped under a fallen rock, her leg twisted at a wrong angle. Broken, but she was breathing. She whimpered when Taman touched her. He spoke softly, words that meant nothing, but the tone mattered. He freed her carefully, wrapped her in another thermal blanket. 2 found, 3 more to find. Krell was unconscious but stable, buried in a snowdrift with enough air pocket to survive. Shen was awake, shivering violently, trying to call for help with a voice too weak to carry. Little Pip was the hardest to find, buried deepest, barely showing any life signs at all. But Taman found them all. 5 cubs. All alive, all hurt, cold, scared but alive. The reality of the situation hit him then. He had found them. But now what? He could not carry 5 cubs through this storm. Even with the sled, even with all his strength, it was impossible. The journey back would take hours. They needed help. They needed it now. Taman looked at his beacon. It was still transmitting. The station knew where he was. But would they come? The Valthrine had accepted the cubs' deaths. Would they risk more lives on what they saw as foolishness? He did not know. But he knew what he could do. Using the sled and his equipment, Taman built a shelter. It was crude, just a framework of metal poles with thermal sheeting stretched over it. But it blocked the wind. It trapped heat. Inside, he arranged all 5 cubs together, wrapped in every thermal blanket he had. He gave them all his warming packs, his extra battery cells, everything that could generate heat. The cubs huddled together, their natural instinct taking over. Pack warmth. It would help them survive. Taman checked his suit readouts. His battery was at 30%. The shelter had taken most of his resources. He had enough power left for maybe 6 hours. The temperature was still dropping. He looked at the cubs, then at his suit controls. The decision was not hard. He removed his thermal lining, the layer that kept his suit warm. He wrapped it around little Pip, who was the coldest. Then he took off his heating vest, gave it to Vex. One by one, he stripped away his own protection and gave it to them. His suit still functioned, still protected him from the void, but without the extra insulation, the cold began to creep in almost immediately. Taman felt it like knives in his skin. His hands started to shake. His teeth chattered, but the cubs were warmer. Their breathing steadied. Color returned to their skin where he could see it. Taman activated his emergency beacon, set it to maximum strength. Then he spoke into his radio, even though the storm probably blocked transmission. "This is Taman. I found them, all 5. They are alive. Sending coordinates. Please come." He repeated the message, again and again. Then he started walking, not away but in circles around the shelter, walking to generate heat, walking because if he stopped moving, if he let himself rest, he would freeze. The human body was not designed for this cold without protection, so he walked and walked. His vision began to blur. His fingers went numb. His legs felt like they were made of stone. Each step was a battle. Each breath was fire in his lungs, but he kept walking. Humans were persistence hunters. They did not stop. They did not quit. They kept moving long after any sane creature would have laid down and died. Taman did not know how long he walked. Time became meaningless. There was only the next step and the next and the next. He fell sometimes. Each time getting back up was harder. But he always got back up. In the shelter, the cubs slept, warm and protected. Outside, a human refused to die, kept moving, kept fighting because that was what humans did. The storm finally broke. The wind died. The sky cleared enough to show stars. Cold stars in a cold sky over a cold world. Taman's beacon blinked steadily in the darkness, a small green light refusing to go out. He saw lights in the distance. Moving lights! Coming closer, or maybe he was hallucinating. It was hard to tell anymore. He took another step. And another. His body was shutting down. He knew this. But not yet. Not until help arrived. One more step. The lights were closer now. Definitely real. Voices calling his name. One more step, his legs gave out. He fell to his knees. The lights surrounded him. Hands grabbed him. Voices spoke in his ear. Taman tried to speak but could not. He raised one shaking hand, pointed toward the shelter where 5 cubs slept safe and warm. Then everything went dark. Hyunwoo saw the beacon first, a steady green pulse in the darkness, standing out against the snow like a star fallen to earth. He pointed and Daeon nodded, adjusting their course. They had been walking for over an hour, following the signal that had stopped moving. The wind had died down to almost nothing. The storm's fury was spent, leaving behind an eerie calm. Their boots crunched on fresh snow, the only sound in the vast silence. Each step brought them closer to that green light and to whatever they would find there. There, Daeon said, her voice tight. A shape in the snow, human-sized, collapsed forward on its knees. The beacon on its back blinked steadily. They ran the last 100 meters. Hyunwoo reached Taman first, dropping to his knees beside his friend. Taman's faceplate was fogged with ice. His suit showed critical temperature warnings across every readout. But his heart was still beating. "He is alive," Hyunwoo called to Daeon. "Barely, but alive." Daeon was already unpacking emergency medical supplies. They worked together, wrapping thermal blankets around Taman, activating heating packs, checking his vital signs. His body temperature was dangerously low. Another 30 minutes and it would have been too late. Taman's eyes flickered open. Unfocused, struggling, his lips moved, trying to form words. Hyunwoo leaned close to hear. "Cubs," Taman whispered. "Found them. All 5. His hand moved weakly, pointing towards something in the darkness. "Shelter. They are in the shelter." Hyunwoo and Daeon looked at each other in shock. Then they looked where Taman pointed. About 50 meters away, they could barely make out a shape. A crude structure half buried in snow. "Stay with him," Daeon said, already moving toward the shelter. She reached it and pulled back the thermal sheeting that served as a door. Inside, huddled together in a pile of blankets and warming equipment, were 5 Valthrine cubs, sleeping, breathing, alive. "Oh my stars," Daeon breathed. "He did it." He actually did it. She checked each cub quickly. All showed signs of hypothermia and exposure, but their conditions were stable. Mora's leg was broken. Vex had frostbite on his paws, but they were all alive. Hyunwoo had managed to get Taman sitting up. The engineer was more aware now, though his body shook violently with cold. His teeth chattered so hard he could barely speak. "We need to get everyone back to the station," Hyunwoo said. "Now, can he walk?" Daeon asked, returning from the shelter. Taman tried to stand. His legs gave out immediately. Hyunwoo caught him before he fell. "That would be a no," Hyunwoo said grimly. "And we cannot carry him and 5 cubs." "Radio the station," Daeon said. "We need a full rescue team out here." Hyunwoo activated his radio. The storm interference was gone now. The signal went through clearly. "Research Station Kyorim 7, this is Hyunwoo. Do you read?" The response was immediate. Rask's voice sharp with tension. "Hyunwoo, report. We found Taman. He is alive but suffering severe hypothermia. We need immediate medical evac." Hyunwoo paused, then added, "And we need a transport team. All 5 cubs are here. They are alive." Silence on the radio. Then a sound like a Valthrine cry, half howl, half sob. "Say again," Rask's voice demanded. "The cubs?" "All 5 are alive, Chief. Injured, cold, but alive." Taman found them. He built a shelter and kept them warm. More sounds over the radio. Voices in the background. Valthrine speaking rapidly in their own language. Then Rask again, his voice thick with emotion. "We are coming. Give us your coordinates. The whole pack is coming." The rescue team arrived within the hour, sleds pulled by Valthrine in full winter gear. Moving at speeds Hyunwoo had not thought possible. Chieftain Rask led them, his massive form cutting through the snow like a force of nature. When Rask saw the shelter and the cubs inside, he stopped moving. Just stood there staring. Other Valthrine rushed past him, checking their young, touching them as if to confirm they were real. Kessa, the elder female, emerged from the shelter with tears running down her furred face. "They live," she said in wonder. "All of them live." Rask turned to where Taman sat, propped against Hyunwoo. The Valthrine leader approached slowly. His expression was complex, mixing emotions no human had seen on a Valthrine face before. Taman looked up at him, still shaking from cold. "Sorry," he managed to say. "Sorry I left during your ceremony. I know it was wrong, but I had to try. Rask knelt down, bringing his large head level with Taemin's. For a long moment, he just looked at the human. Then he did something that shocked every Valthrine present. He bowed his head. "You have nothing to apologize for," Rask said quietly. "I do. We mourned when we should have searched. We accepted when we should have fought. You showed us what we had forgotten." "What is that?" Taemin asked. "That some things are worth the impossible," Rask replied. "That sometimes courage means refusing to accept fate." Medical personnel were working on Taemin now, checking his condition. One of them, a Valthrine named Juan, shook his head as he read the suit diagnostics. "His thermal protection is gone," Juan said. "All of it." He stripped his own equipment. He looked at Taemin with disbelief. "You gave them your heating systems. You walked in sub-zero temperatures with no protection." "They needed it more," Taemin said simply. "You would have died," Juan stated. "Maybe. But they would have lived." Taemin's eyes were closing. The warmth from the medical blankets was making him drowsy. That was good enough. They loaded the cubs onto sleds carefully. Each one was secured, wrapped, monitored. The adult Valthrine touched them constantly, unable to stop confirming they were real. They were safe, they were home. Little Pip woke up as they moved him. His eyes opened, confused and scared. Then he saw Taemin being loaded onto another sled nearby. The cub made a sound, reaching out with one small paw. "Human," Pip called weakly. "The human saved us." Rask came to walk beside Taemin's sled. "Can you walk?" he asked the engineer. Taemin tried to move his legs. They barely responded. "No," he admitted, "then you will ride. But know this." Rask's voice was formal now, ceremonial. "We began a journey to recover our dead. We return carrying our living young. This is because of you. The debt we owe cannot be spoken in simple words." "No debt," Taemin mumbled. He was fading fast, exhaustion and cold finally claiming him. "They are just kids. Someone had to try." "Yes," Rask agreed. "Someone had to try, and a human did what we could not." The journey back to the station took 3 hours. They moved slowly, carefully, protecting their precious cargo. Taemin slipped in and out of consciousness during the trip. Each time he woke, he looked toward where the cubs were, checking on them. Each time, Hyunwoo or Daeun assured him they were fine. When they finally saw the station lights ahead, the entire remaining pack was waiting outside. They stood in formation, a honor guard for the returning young. As the rescue team approached, they began to howl. Not grief songs this time, but songs of joy and celebration. The cubs were taken immediately to medical. Taemin was supposed to go too, but as they tried to move him from the sled, he stirred. His eyes opened, more alert now. "Wait," he said. Need to see them safe inside first." "You need medical attention," Juan insisted. "After," Taemin said stubbornly. "Please, I need to see them safe." Rask nodded. "He has earned this." So they supported Taemin, one person on each side, as he walked on unsteady legs to the medical bay. He watched as each cub was brought in, placed on examination tables surrounded by medical equipment and caring hands. He counted them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all safe, all alive. Only then did Taemin allow himself to collapse. They caught him as he fell, but he was smiling. "Good," he whispered as consciousness left him. "That is good." They carried him to his own medical bed. As the doctors worked on him, treating his hypothermia and exhaustion, the 5 cubs slept nearby. Outside, the Valthrine pack sang new songs. Songs they had never needed before. Songs for a human who walked into death and brought back life. Songs for someone who showed them that giving up was not the only way. Songs for Taemin. Taemin woke to warmth and soft light. For several moments, he could not remember where he was or what had happened. His body felt heavy, disconnected. Everything ached in a distant way, like pain happening to someone else. Memory returned slowly. The storm. The search. 5 cubs in the snow. Walking until he could not walk anymore. His eyes focused. Medical bay. He was in the station's medical bay, lying in a bed with warm blankets piled on top of him. Monitors beeped softly nearby, tracking his vital signs. An IV line ran into his arm. He turned his head, the motion taking more effort than it should. The medical bay had several beds. In 5 of them, he saw Valthrine cubs sleeping, alive, safe. Relief flooded through him. They made it. Everyone made it. A sound made him look the other way. Chieftain Rask sat in a chair beside his bed. The large Valthrine looked uncomfortable in the human-sized furniture, but he sat there anyway. His eyes were open, watching Taman. "You are awake," Rask said softly. "Good. You have been sleeping for 3 days." 3 days? Taman's voice came out rough, barely above a whisper. Rask nodded. "Severe hypothermia, exhaustion. Your body needed time to recover." He paused. "The medical team said you were very close to death. Another hour in that cold and we would not have brought you back." Taman tried to sit up. His arms shook with the effort. Rask moved quickly, adjusting the bed so Taman could be upright without straining himself. "The cubs?" Taman asked, though he could see them. "All recovering well. Mora's leg is healing. Vex lost 2 claws to frostbite but will be fine. The others had minor injuries. They will all make full recoveries." Rask's voice was warm with emotion. "Thanks to you." "Anyone would have done the same," Taman said. "No," Rask replied firmly. "No, they would not have. We did not. We accepted their loss. We mourned. We did what our culture has always done." He leaned forward. "But you did something different. You refused to accept. You fought when fighting seemed impossible, and you won." Taman did not know what to say to that. He looked down at his hands, noticing the bandages on his fingers. Frostbite damage, probably. He had not even felt it at the time. "I have a question for you," Rask said. "If I may ask it." "Of course, and why?" Rask's eyes were intense. "Why did you risk your life for young who are not even your species? You owed us nothing. The cubs were not your responsibility. You could have stayed safe and warm while we mourned. Why did you walk into that storm?" Taman was quiet for a moment, thinking about the answer. He had not really thought about it at the time. He had just acted. But Rask deserved a real response. "Because they were kids," Taman said finally, "and someone had to try." He looked at Rask. "In human culture we have a saying. It takes a village to raise a child. It means that all adults are responsible for all children, not just their own. When a child is in danger, you help. Not because they are yours. Not because you will get something in return. You help because they are a child and that is what you do." "Even if it means your own death?" Rask asked. "Yes," Taman said simply. "Even then. Because a world where adults do not protect children is not a world worth living in." Rask was silent for a long time. His eyes were distant, thinking. Finally he spoke again. "We Valthrine pride ourselves on honor, on courage, on facing death without fear. But you have shown me that we were missing something important. There is a difference between accepting death and fighting against it. Both can be courageous, but only one creates hope." The door to the medical bay opened. Dune and Hyunwoo entered, both smiling when they saw Taman awake. "About time," Hyunwoo said, trying to sound casual, but his relief was obvious. "You have been sleeping like a dead person." "Almost was one," Taman replied with a weak smile. Dayun came to his bedside, checking his monitors with practiced efficiency. "Your numbers are good." "Better than we hoped. Humans are tough." "Stubborn, you mean?" Hyunwoo added. A small sound made them all turn. One of the cubs was waking. Little Pip, the smallest one. His eyes opened, looked around in confusion, then focused on Taman. The cub made a happy sound and tried to get out of bed. "Whoa, stay down," Dayun said, gently pushing Pip back onto the bed. "You are still recovering." But Pip kept reaching toward Taman, making urgent sounds. Rask went to the cub, speaking softly in the Valthrine language. Pip responded, gesturing toward Taman. "He wants to thank you," Rask translated. "He remembers you finding him. Remembers you keeping him warm." "Tell him he is welcome," Taman said. "Tell him I am glad he is okay." Rask spoke to Pip, who listened carefully. Then the cub said something that made Rask's eyes widen. "He says you are Pack now, that you carried him when he could not walk, that you gave him warmth from your own body. In Valthrine culture, this creates a bond. He considers you family." Taman felt emotion tighten his throat. "I would be honored." Over the next few days, as both Taman and the cubs recovered, something changed in the station. The Valthrine treated Taman differently, not just with respect, but with something deeper. They touched his shoulder when passing. They brought him food prepared specially. They included him in conversations he had never been part of before. On the 5th day, Rask came to visit again. This time he brought something. A metal band, similar to the ceremonial ones the cubs had worn. "The pack has decided," Rask said formally. "We wish to give you a title, a place in our culture." "That is not necessary," Taman started to say. Please, Rask interrupted. Let me finish. What you did has no word in our language. To walk into death for the young of another species. To give your own life force to keep them warm. To refuse to abandon them even when your body was failing. We had no word for this kind of courage, so we made one. Rask held up the band. Varkresh. It means one who carries what cannot be carried. You are the first to receive this title. It is not just honor. It is recognition of something we did not understand about humans before. What is that? Temin asked. That you do not know when something is impossible. Or perhaps you know, but you try anyway. You see a burden too heavy to lift and you lift it. You see a fight that cannot be won, and you fight. This is not foolishness. This is a different kind of strength. Rask placed the band around Temin's wrist. It fit perfectly, warm against his skin. The cubs wish to perform a ceremony, Rask continued. If you are strong enough, they wish to pledge themselves to you, not as servants, as family. The bond you created in that shelter was real to them. They wish to make it permanent. Temin looked at the sleeping cubs, then back at Rask. I did not do it for this. I did not want anything in return. We know, Rask said gently. That is exactly why we wish to give it to you. The ceremony was held 2 days later in the ceremonial chamber. The room was filled with the entire Valthrine pack, all in their formal attire. Temin stood at the center, still weak but able to walk with help. The 5 cubs entered, moving slowly due to their injuries but with their heads held high. They wore new ceremonial bands specially made for this occasion. It is the human word for hope, Dune whispered to him. She had helped design the symbols, written in Korean characters combined with Valthrine art. One by one, the cubs approached Temin. Krell spoke first, his voice young but steady. You found me when I was lost. I pledge my courage to you. Shen was next. You saved me when I was in danger. I pledge my cunning to you. Mora limped forward on her healing leg. You protected me when I was helpless. I pledge my strength to you. Vex, quiet as always, spoke softly. You gave me warmth when I was freezing. I pledge my loyalty to you. Finally, little Pip, smallest of them all. You carried me when I could not walk. I pledge my heart to you. Temin felt tears in his eyes. He had not expected this. Had not wanted I accept, he said, his voice thick with emotion. And I pledge something in return. I will always walk into the storm for you. I will always search when others have given up. I will always try, even when trying seems hopeless. This is my promise. The Valthrine howled together, a sound of celebration and acceptance. It shook the walls, filled the air. Spoke of something new beginning. Later, after the ceremony, Yunwu found Temin in the observation deck, looking out at the ice planet's dark sky. Quite a day, Yunwu said, joining him. Yeah, Temin agreed. I still cannot believe they did all that. They understand now, Yunwu said. Understand what makes humans different. We do not have fur to protect us from the cold. We do not have claws or strength, but we have something else. What is that? We refuse to quit. We see something that needs doing and we do it even if it kills us, especially if it is for kids. Yunwu smiled. Think the Valthrine finally get us? Temin looked at the ceremonial band on his wrist. Varkresh, one who carries what cannot be carried. I think they understand one thing, Temin said quietly, that you do not bet against a stubborn human with something to protect. Behind them, the ceremonial chamber still echoed with celebration. The 5 cubs, recovered and alive, played together under the watchful eyes of their pack, and one human, tired but content, watched over them all. The pack had mourned their young, but the human had walked in, covered in snow, carrying them all back home. And in doing so had shown an entire species that sometimes the impossible was just something no one had tried hard enough to do yet. Outside the observation window, the first hint of dawn began to touch the horizon. On this way,